Hi guys, this is Breaker, and I'm back with a replay that I took from the front page of Drop.sc, and I decided to cast it to the best of my abilities. Um, Personally right now, well, let's go ahead and get the players introduced before we talk about anything that would be, I guess you could say, blog style in today's cast. Lower right-hand corner spawning is our red Zerg. I give you all Starbuck, and his opponent in the upper left spawning is our Terran in the blue trunks. I give you all Dayshi from Millennium. I have no choice but to assume that this is going to be on a ladder map, not a part of any tournament to be spoken of. But I guess it's time to really give with the updates and so on and so forth. But here goes nothing. It's actually kind of been a while since I took a replay from the front page of Drop.sc and kind of casted it. And I guess you could say that might be because I'm a little bit busy. I did just get a message on Facebook. I'm kind of eagerly standing by, looking for some news, if you will. Oh, I'm sorry, that was just a friend of mine who's from Korea, studied abroad here in America, but is now in Korea. And I'm just gonna exit out of Facebook with that being said. It wasn't quite the news I was looking for, but thus far we have Dayshi just going for our One Racks Expo. It looks like perhaps, maybe, is there gas yet? Not quite yet, but I think there's still plenty of room for that. Starbuck trying to start up some dialogue. You going to DreamHack? I'm guessing this was a little dated. It might have been a replay that was played a while back. I can't think for the life of me. Is there another DreamHack going down? I mean, in terms of huge European events, there's Asus ROG. I'm going to be getting in on that. I will be the Chinese language streamer for that event. I'm very happy to say that much, but of course, it's I would say the ultimate mark of pride would be being the caster that's behind that booth at the actual event in person. And that's what I'm going to enjoy the most in the future if my plans come to fruition. But right now, it's just leaning more and more towards, it just won't happen. I'll be honest with you guys, there's some communication things that are going down between me and the Hong Kong esports thing that isn't quite going the way I want it to. Starbuck actually went with a bit of a unique expo there. He actually went with, I think that was a 15 pool first. We already have a Marine down at the bottom of this ramp chipping away at the rocks. Very annoying rocks. Darren rocks, get out of my lawn, that kind of thing. But, ultimately, it's just, I'm leaning towards saying I'm not going to get in on the Hong Kong esports event, and honestly, I can see why, I guess. When you stop and think about all the casters that are nearby in Korea that basically do 10 times better the work that I do, kind of makes perfect sense. The only leg up I have on, say, Tasteless, Artosis, Caldor, Wolf, those other guys, is the fact that I speak Mandarin as a second language, and that's about it. Now, I'm not entirely sure why exactly Starbuck went with this opener. I can't really say, but we're still waiting for that developmental phase of the game where we see the gases go down and so on and so forth. But speaking of, we of course already have Dayshi going for double gas in his main. I believe presently Starbuck, yeah, he doesn't have any information on what's going on in the main. He did just try to delay the natural. Almost got the SEV. Brought it down to red health, 10 HP. And he's gonna break back and go to the middle of the map. I really feel as though he should take a Zelnaga watchtower. And the SCV got sacrificed to see that basically there was no gas in the main, I believe. Let's double check that. Yeah, he saw everything in the main, but he saw there was no gas, more importantly, and that basically means our Zerg is going for a third. As you can see here, not too late of a third, really. Assuming it's going to go down as soon as 300 hits here, as it has. There we go. And ultimately, I guess the biggest problem with being a caster is you don't know when things are going to come together. Right now, I guess you could say I'm little more than a community caster. There's basically three tiers of casting. There's community casting, which means you're just doing it for free. You don't have Twitch partnership or anything like that. And I had to explain this to a friend of mine. There's tier 2 casting, where you're being paid Twitch revenue, as well as perhaps some other PayPal pay to do your casting on the side. And then there's tier 3 casting, which is, and by the way, if you're a tier 2 caster, you might have somewhat of a reputation like me. I've got haters. I got a lot of haters because of mistakes that I've made in the past. I'm not going to lie about that. But tier 3 means you're basically like, I want to say, kind of like Apollo SC2, Day 9, or even Nathanius, where you're actually being paid to go to the actual events and cast them. Hellions here took down the Zergling, gonna assert their control over the map. And I think now, you know, Dayshi, he doesn't have to throw his Hellions at that little location in the lower left. He just knows that there's going to be a third by now. What he's doing with these Hellions is he's basically establishing map control and his dominance. And it looks like we're still going to have him going for a medevac drop, at the very least with some Hellbats. We're going to have 4 Hellions here altogether. These 2 Queens will be able to deal with these 2 Hellions, no problem. But, of course, Daishi's not going to let that happen, so he just pulls them back. Overlord gets sacrificed here. Saw that there was a... what's the word I'm looking for? He saw that there was a factory, but I'm not so sure about the armory part. No. I'm not so sure about him seeing the, excuse me, not the overseer. the, twin Hellbats going into the medevac. Nonetheless, he's got pretty good creep spread. I think maybe this creep team will be able to see that medevac. It does. Now the question is, do the eyes of Dayshi see it? Yes, he's responding to it appropriately, sending some roaches into the main, but they're not going to just drop in the open. No, they're going to drop behind the mineral line. But because they were aggroed by the roach, they get pulled towards the roach, and it looks like the queen is not going to be able to nick that to death. No, unfortunately. And these 4 Hellions sitting here idly haven't done any economic damage. Lots of static defenses at the third. The main, kind of static, just a teeny bit static. And Dayshi, I think, being just a teeny bit greedy here. Or not Dayshi, but rather Starbuck being just a teeny bit greedy here, going for the attack on, or putting that Spore Crawler in a forward position where it can attack in uneventful medevac. Speaking of, we do have the medevac dropping on this queen, trying to get it. But as long as it's on creep, it's going to be able to move out of position and keep itself alive with a relative ease. But wait a minute. SCV is getting pulled along for the right. This has got to be a misclick, right? It's got to be a misclick. Because typically when you see SCVs being pulled, it's usually in large quantities. And it's usually at a much earlier stage in the game when, say, your Zerg opponent doesn't have a Baneling nest. And that's true. We actually, to the best of my knowledge, no, my eyes have not deceived me. We actually do not see a Baneling nest. We only have a couple of Marauders in the mix here, but there's a lot of Hellbats. The Hellbats are super tanky, as you can see. The Roaches trying to put up the fight against them, realizing, hey, we just can't do it. We're going to run home and regroup. And the Queen's being pulled along to the right as well. They're going to have transfuses, which will come in handy in this engagement, but it looks like one Queen gets sniped. And there's 2 more left. The Spinecrawler gets put into an adequate position. It's going to be able to pick off a few units before it falls in. The Hellbats are just streaming all over the place. They're actually getting into the natural here. How are we going to see Starbuck hold this? This is just crazy. The positioning here of the Marines is actually working against everything from the third that came to reinforce. That means mostly the Zerglings, and it looks like the mineral line could be in a huge threat right now. There's only 1 Hellbat here, so Lings would actually be a good substitute right now. We actually have +1 missile attacks about to finish up. +1 Carapace finished up a while back, actually helping out in that engagement. And now it looks like we actually have a very, I want to say, overzealous Dayshi trying to move out on creep, putting drops here and there and everywhere else in between, not killing too much in the way of workers just yet, only 4 to his name thus far, but he's going to have a drop go down here in the main. The Queen, the Roaches, the drones get pulled, and this looks like it's actually pre-Hellbat nerf. Yes, pre-Hellbat nerf, that's a word I just made up. But a couple drones! Oh, okay, well, it's not as bad as it could have been, I think. Drop going down yet again over here, and it looks like Dayshi has racked up 13 kills. Ouch, this actually got a lot worse. He grouped up all of his drones. Starbuck grouped up all of his drones thinking, okay, threat's over and done with. I've dealt with it. He actually inadequately measured that and underestimated it, and it basically cost him, I think, a total of 15 drones to this point in the game. Dayshi now moving out for a second attack, but I think this could be a bit of an overcommitment. After all, he doesn't have +1/+1. He doesn't even have concussive shells. He's got some Hellbats coming into the mix, but we also have a lot of Hydras here for Starbuck. And basically what the Hydras will do is, sure, they're not the best tool in the shed versus a lot of Terran compositions like this, but there's not a lot in the way of AoE here. As long as the Roaches stay alive, the Hydras will be able to contribute a significant amount of DPS. Some of the highest in the game, according to that, according to Day 9, excuse me. But Dayshi is actually moving out on creep. He doesn't have a scan handy just yet. He's getting his third. He's already got his third established, but he's just waiting to move it. And it looks like we're actually going to have all of these units engaged here. Positioning not the best for Starbuck. His Hydra's actually having a hard time finding units to shoot at with their spines, their sickles, if you will, that they send out to attack. And it looks like what's left of Dayshi's forces will be picking up and going back home. Not too much lost here. Now all he really needs to keep himself alive in this game is another immaculate engagement and holding off until he gets his +2/+2 on the way, maybe close to finish. But right now we have a huge upgrade lead by Starbuck. If you just want to look at the amount of time that he's had +1/+1 and the huge gap of time that his +2/+2 will be finished in contrast to that of his opponent, it's going to be like a 100-second lead. So that is basically 1 minute and 40 seconds of in-game time where we're going to see Starbuck be able to do just that much more damage to Dayshi. And not only that, Starbuck actually has, you know, he's got a larger army count, if I'm not mistaken right now. Yeah, it's actually significantly higher, but we also have to look at the unit composition, examine that very well, and to this point in the game, it actually seems as though there's enough Marauders to deal with the Roaches. It's all going to come down to more than just engagement, but I think if we get, say, some Infestors into the mix, that would really seal the deal for Starbuck. He's already going for his Hive Tech. Looks like it's going to be at the natural. And that means he's basically just waiting for Hive to finish so that he can get his +3/+3 on the way. Meanwhile, +2/+2 about halfway done for Dayshi. And he's sending out another medevac drop. Looks like they's got caught onto by these overlords. Starbuck kind of stunted with his production right now. That means he's saving gas for something, and what do you know? It's got to be those Infestors. Okay, now 30 seconds has passed since the upgrade has began, so that means if we actually see Starbuck actually go through and make some Infestors right now, they will have enough for a full-blown pathogen, or excuse me, a full-blown fungal, if you will. Drop going down here at what appears to be the 8 o'clock-ish position, and it has been dealt with. Medevac getting caught out in the open, again, dealt with. Immaculate creep spread is to thank for that, and Hydra's coming into position to defend against any drops that may come their way. Dayshi not quite getting the best positioning. I wouldn't say positioning, but rather, what's the word I'm looking for? He just didn't quite hit the timing. His opponent knew that there was still a medevac around. It might be an okay idea to just bring it back, repair it, you know, patch it up and send it out with some more units in it. But now this is a rather interesting choice. We actually have Vipers coming into the mix, but I don't quite see the most valuable units in the army composition that we could see really Starbuck to use them. He could use Blinding Cloud. That would greatly reduce the range of the Hellbat's attack, as well as the Marines and Marauders. Marauders especially. The Marauders are basically the snipers of the composition here. They're going to tell the entire story, but +3/+3 has only just now begun for Starbuck. That actually puts him a teeny bit behind that of the +3/+3 of his opponent. Alright, so we're going to see just how well all these fungal growth casting spellcasters along with the Vipers will perform here. Another scan goes down. I'm wondering just where that went down. Oh my. I hit a wrong button. Sorry about that. Okay, another scan going down, and it is basically here to spot this lower right-hand corner base, and it looks like we're going to have Starbuck react immediately to save it, or destroy his opponent's entire unit composition, whichever he can do first. Alright, so here we go. Huge engagement, scan on creep, and will he be able to do it? Beautiful fungal growth on top of Blinding Clouds. My god, that is genius! I never would have thought of it. That's why I was so brain stumped just a minute ago trying to figure out what these Vipers are doing. But now it looks like there's a full-blown surround going down, and there's a little bit too much left for Starbuck to hold, but still, he's got reinforcements coming in behind this. He should be able to hold his ground, even if all of these Hydras fall. And it looks like they might. It's a little difficult to say, really. Just barely we see the Bio Force, the Bio Ball of Dayshi prevailing over, excuse me, all of that aggression from Starbuck. Wow, if we examine the units lost right now, sure, it's higher for Zerg, but our Zerg player can afford to lose this because he's already on 4 base. He's got tons and tons of static to defend all of his bases from any drops he may incur, which is actually the only danger with Roach Hydra right now. It's largely immobile. As long as you put Spine Crawlers in positions where a Terran player is prone to drop, 2 Spine Crawlers would be more than adequate to deal with an entire medevac full of Marines and maybe a couple of Marauders. That's all it takes. 2 spine crawlers, guys. Not 1, just 2. Because 1 will definitely fall to medevac full of Marines, and 2 will just kill everything that drops out of that medevac. Another scan going down, and we have Dayshi opting for map control. +3/+3 is going to finish up just a little bit faster for him than it will for Starbuck. It's just gonna, I don't want to say it was a huge mistake by Starbuck. It's definitely something that's attuned to his playstyle to do something like this. And he's throwing down another scan. It looks like it just went down over here. He's like, oh man, more creep spread I gotta deal with. You just spread me all out, all over the place. But meanwhile, it looks like the 4th base of Dayshi will come under attack. It's forced to lift. Will we see Starbuck get it, however? He's actually targeting it down. He does get it. And the leftover Hydras are going to try and deal with these Hellbats coming in. Meanwhile, big-ish engagement over here at the lower right-hand base for Starbuck. His Hydra's caught out of position. They're not going to get the best engagement points, but the Roaches here are going to do absolutely wonderfully well versus all these fungled bio units underneath the Blinding Cloud. But now it looks like it's just a little bit too much from Dayshi, and we are going to see the lower right-hand base fall again. No contest. Lots and lots of Hydras on the way this time around. There's actually nothing here in the way of Roaches. Roaches are so quintessentially important because they are tanks, effectively speaking. But I was wondering what these evolution chambers are doing here. You don't need too many of them, but of course, it looks like we're going to see Starbuck using those to get the energy up on his Vipers, using that consume, that energy plug, whatever have you. And now it looks like we got the reinforcement line heading this way, and Dayshi's just like, whatever, I'm moving out on creep, I can't afford to spend the scans. And another engagement going down. Blinding Cloud, not quite the most effective positioning on it. Another consume going down. Lots and lots of Hydras this time around. There's actually not a lot in the way of Marines here. There's not a lot of AoE here. This is actually going to work a lot against Dayshi, as he's forced to pull back for the moment. 129 supply to the 197 of Starbuck, and my god, Starbuck has just basically pioneered... No, he's taken the Stefano Roach style and basically refined it now. Excuse me, not the Stefano Roach style, but the Stefano Roach Hydra that we all knew so well on Ohana LE. And if you examine this map for just a little bit, it is a little reminiscent of Ohana LE. All you have to think about is the terrain differences, really. There's a lot more in the way of clutter. It's a little bit more difficult for your units to get around, but somehow we see Starbuck managing to make this work. That's not to say he's had entirely favorable engagements. He's lost a lot of resources, more than his Terran opponent. But behind this, it actually looks like he's gonna play this the greedy Sen style, and by that I mean he's gonna take his opponent's 5th base, excuse me, and have it serve as his own 6th base. I've seen Sen do this before in the WCSNA Premier League versus Alicia. He won game number 2 on this map, but he lost game number 1 and game number 3, meaning that he was knocked down into Challenger League. Roaches trying to get this round on that Marauder. Scans going down just to get an accurate measure of what everything here is like. I want to say that what we see coming from Starbuck, it's a lot of micro. It may look like, oh my god, this is genius, it's working so well. But it's going to take a lot of micro to make that work. And here we go, Fungal Growth going down. Where are the Blinding Clouds? We need to see those Blinding Clouds so that we have absolutely defenseless Marines on the ground. But it looks like, oh boy, they're not going down. The Infestors get one more Fungal Growth. The Fungal is not quite connecting with the Blinding Clouds, but as long as there are Blinding Clouds, we see units that are forced to inch forward to attack. But it looks like slowly but surely we may just see Starbuck's forces prevail over that of Dayshi's. He's remaxing on Roaches to compensate for the losses that he is at right now. Dayshi now at 102 supply to Starbuck's 190, but most of Starbuck's supply is of course in reinforcements. If we measure the current army supply difference right now, he is 3 times higher than that of Dayshi. As I began that sentence, it looks like we had a couple of spine crawlers getting pulled along for the right. Of course, they were going to act as blood banks for the Vipers, if you will. And I think, you know, does he know about this? Oh my god. Wow, he just knows about creep being spread here, I think, and that's it. So actually, the situation now is that Dayshi doesn't know that his opponent has basically taken the 6th base. There is now a Greater Spire entering the composition. Interesting to note because to this point we have not seen a single Mutalisk in the game. We have not seen a single Corruptor in the game yet. Now, one thing that I will say we could see come from Starbuck that would be an acceptable move would be throwing away a few Roaches, alleviating supply so that he can get some, that's what I'm looking for, some Broodlords into the mix. He can't even make Corruptors right now. He can make one, and that's it. And right now, it looks like Dayshi's going to occupy the map while we have a scan going down here, revealing the position of our Zerg army, delaying further mining time on what appears to be this fourth base. But now it looks like everything from Dayshi is being pulled to deal with this. Beautiful fungal growth. Surround is just far too beautiful here for our Terran, though. And it looks like he's going to be able to kind of A-move in all of this. Blinding Clouds going down everywhere. Not quite sure who's going to prevail over this, but it looks like slowly but surely it could be Dayshi. He's losing a lot here. He lost all of his SCVs trying to hold this attack. So even though he might prevail in this engagement, look at the income. It's down to nothing. That third base is almost absolutely non-existent. It's almost completely dry. So we have to see Dayshi hold this. More Marauders and Marines coming back behind this, dealing with the Roaches that are now on our screen. And boom, there it is. But I think there's far too many spine crawlers here for that bio to move onto this. And it looks like Dayshi's actually at a dangerously low supply. Our Zerg player having a much higher lead in the way of losses, if you will, with resources. I wouldn't say that, you know, Dayshi is doing his best trying to hold on to this, but question is, what could he have done in the way of AoE? Maybe he could bring some ghosts into the mix, use nukes here and there to throw his opponent out of position, multiple ghost academies, something like that. But even then, I think Starbuck's force is just a little bit too mobile. The problem is, I'm trying to think of ways that Dayshi could come back in this earlier and maybe try and find a way to beat his opponent out. Maybe just going mech. Overall, we're entering the late phase of the game, and this is gonna, one way or another, we're gonna see a GG soon because both players are gonna go low on econ. I mean, we just have 3 mining bases for our one Zerg, and of course 1 mining base for our Terran. Excuse me, I did call that out wrong just a moment ago. With just the 2 mining bases. Broodlord's now entering the mix, and that could be the death knell. We do have another scan coming from our Terran. That actually reveals the pocket upper left, if you will. Tons of static defenses around it. Starbuck's APM just off the hinge, really. Now, the one thing that we could see Dayshi absolutely abuse the hell out of in the near future would be the fact that Starbuck's air forces here will not be too mobile. He'll be able to catch those out maybe in the open if we see Starbuck misclick or something like that. But for the time being, it looks like he's going to try and take down this upper left-hand base. And Starbuck's just like, okay, I don't care. Let it fall. He's already evacuating all the drones, but he knows it's not going to go down without at least a strong fight. There's a spine crawler now with 5 kills here. This one way back here with 1, and it looks like Dayshi, or excuse me, not Dayshi, but Starbuck really has no intention of maybe directly engaging that. I think what instead he was pulling his army back over here for is to defend this base. Yes, as you can see, the infestors are headed in that direction, but it looks like he's just going to go in for the kill right now. Here we go. This could be the final engagement of the game. I don't see Dayshi being able to hold on for too much longer in this game. Oh man, fungal growth going down, but the spreads are absolutely beautiful on those Marines. Many of them simply cannot shoot. More and more blinding clouds going down. Fungal growths everywhere. Tons of infestors left over. Only 1 Broodlord left in the mix. I don't see how we could have seen Dayshi win this, but I mean, he tried. He just, I don't know. Just look at the army supply that was left over, and the bank that we had for our Zerg. It wasn't going to quite work out for Dayshi. I mean, he tried his best. He was moving his orbital command down here. All of his SCVs were distance mining, and he got cut out in the open. So, yeah. If you guys liked what you saw here today, then please just go ahead and click on the subscribe button. This is Breaker. I'll see you guys next time.